Hey everybody, welcome back to SuperDerek Streams. I'm SuperDerek and make thoughtful and thought-provoking videos for gamers who love RPGs. And this week, I've been working on a lot of side projects that have really taken up a lot of my time. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about what I've been working on that will hopefully kind of help resolve a lot of the requests that I've been getting on the channel a lot lately. And I don't want to tell you too much more than that. I'll just kind of leave it at that. Also, I should apologize in advance because things might sound a little bit different, and they definitely look a little bit different with this in the way. Unfortunately, my shotgun microphone that I had been using for a while, my dream microphone, is having some issues, but I should be able to get it fixed soon. So hopefully this is going to be a one-time deal being in frame, but in the meantime, say hello to everybody, microphone son.
Hello there.
All right. So with that out of the way, let's do a bit of Q&A, starting with Terminally Nerdy, who's a friend of mine as well as a fellow YouTuber here, who asked about other YouTubers that I watch. And as I kind of said in the last video, I don't really get to watch as many RPG YouTubers as I would normally like to, because I'm very hypercritical of and hyper aware of how you can inadvertently plagiarize people. So I basically, in order to prevent other people's opinions from flavoring the things that I have to say about games, I kind of have to go dark a little bit. But I do watch a lot of YouTube still. A lot of tech YouTubers, in fact. So this is probably going to surprise you guys, but Linus Tech Tips is a big inspiration for my channel. I've definitely improved a lot of my workflows as a result of watching a lot of their workflows. And at some point, I'd like to show you sort of some of the crazy tech that goes on here that you probably wouldn't expect to. Also, Tech Tangents. He's a much smaller YouTube channel who recently renamed himself, and has gone full-time very recently here on YouTube. Oh man, and I gotta say I'm a little bit incredibly jealous of his new office space that he's putting together for filming and recording. He's a super cool dude. I'm one of his $10 patrons, I think, or is it 15? I can't remember. As soon as he was talking about his plight, and I was like, oh man, I really want to help this guy out. So made sure to put my money where my mouth is and where my eyes go, and wanted to make sure that I helped support him. Shelby's such a nice dude, such a genuine, heartfelt person. Whenever he talks on camera, he's just one of those people that I want to listen to. Like, talk about pretty much whatever. Videos about calculators? Sure. Retro gaming? Sure. LGR is also another one of the people who do YouTube videos about retro video games, retro computing. I'm definitely all in on his series of LGR thrifts. I wish I had enough thrift stores in my area to put something like that together. Game collecting just doesn't look the same here, unfortunately, but his videos are an inspiration to keep up the hunt, as well as just seeing him restore all those really old, like 286, 386, 486, early Pentium. It's something that has inspired me to actually put together some of my own retro computers and get them running, and hopefully at some point maybe we can start exploring some CRPGs on them. Somebody else that I watch a lot of is Epos Vox, who is the stream professor. Essentially, you might have heard of him if you are a Twitch streamer or if you are on YouTube, a content creator. Tons of capture card and gear reviews. He's super informative, such a also really great guy. And then finally, Glass Reflection Arcada was also a big inspiration for some of the things that I talk about on my channel sometimes. I've quoted him a few times. If you heard me ever say that the ending is paramount, I've said that in a couple of videos. I borrowed it from him, and I always do my best to attribute that to him. That's kind of one of his things, but he's an anime reviewer, super genuine people. Definitely check out those people that I mentioned when you get the chance. I'll have links in the description if you're interested. Alonzo also asked me about what kinds of music do I listen to? And that's an answer that has changed a lot over the years. Early on in my childhood, I was very much into country music. That changed pretty early on. I can't really listen to a whole lot of country music. Some of the really classic country is still good, Johnny Cash, the stuff that they featured in Fallout New Vegas, if that qualifies. But generally, around the time I hit maybe first grade or so, I really started getting into my dad's rock and roll collection. And that was a lot of Kiss and a lot of Led Zeppelin and The Who and just, classic rock and roll. I like some of the Stones, but much before that, like the Beatles, it's not really my style. I appreciate what the Beatles do or did for rock and roll, but I don't particularly care for the sound myself. But the Stones, The Who, Led Zeppelin, Rush, Van Halen. Van Halen. Just I love a lot of those, and that's what I listened to a whole lot of up through maybe my high school years, and then into my college years when I was when it was well past its heyday. I started getting into ska punk, and ska punk is something that I think kind of inspired some of the SuperDerek do. It started off as like a faux hawk, and then it kind of evolved into its own sort of weird thing. So ska punk like Real Big Fish, regular punk like no effects. Anti-Flag was a big thing that I really enjoyed early on in my like college age years, and then lately I've been getting into more jazz. I mean, you could probably say that was pretty heavily inspired by playing through Persona 5 years ago, and then just sort of having my eyes opened up to acid jazz and all kinds of like, electro swing. I like all kinds of music. I have quite a wide variety of music that I really listen to. Brooke asked about what's a recent video that I've done that I would like to improve. And the first thing that comes to mind is my most recent video with Eric from Retro Game Remix, which if you haven't checked out that interview yet, that talking about music, he's a fantastic musician. And what I would change about it is I was so focused on editing out basically all of my stammering, my stuttering, bad takes, false starts, awkward transitions. I was so focused on editing out all the bad stuff that I forgot to add stuff in, B-roll, stuff with him actually playing guitar, things like his music videos. He's got such an incredible breadth of talent. And so it was really fun to be able to pick his brain. And that's my main regret at this point for that video, is that I just should have added more visual flair, because I was just so enamored. I was just like, connecting with Eric. I was just, when I'm editing it, I'm just like focused in on the conversation, the back and forth, the play back and forth of the discussion, the thoughts, bouncing back and forth. It didn't strike me to remember to make it a visual thing at that point. So if that was something that I could go back and redo, that's probably all I would really do. Otherwise, I feel like it was a fantastic conversation. And again, if you haven't seen it or at least listened to it, it's perfect to listen to in the background, by the way. And then sort of coincidentally dovetailing with that question is Pentafla Ninja, who asked about what my favorite game soundtrack is. And it sometimes changes, right? Like sometimes it's very much Persona 5, because honestly, I feel like I could listen to that on repeat my entire life. But some things just have that deeper seated emotional connection, and maybe that's tied to some nostalgia goggles too. And that would definitely be Chrono Cross for me from Yatsunori Mitsuda. That game has such a build up to some of the songs that I wish I could remember some of them off the top of my head, but the song that plays when you are freeing Marbule, I think is how it's pronounced. It's been such a long time since I played it, but it's preceded by this opera that Nikki plays in, this rock opera, and then eventually as you're like defeating all the monsters, you got this. I'll play the actual song here, and it's fantastic. Plus, The Girl Who Stole Stars is one of those things that just, you hear it and it goes straight for the heart, because it's tied emotionally to me with seeing the background of Kid and Luca and the orphanage that, it's like a 30-year-old game. Can I spoil it yet? I won't, because I'm going to be reviewing it soon, and that song has so many events tied to it for me that I can't separate it from those emotional moments, making it in a very emotional music to me, which is something that Eric and I kind of talked a little bit about in our podcast, which you can totally check out over here. Yeah, over in this corner, we talk a little bit about how RPGs and their music kind of go hand in hand and in turn become their own sort of rock opera. And it's so good. Tyrone Wilson asked about what's with that red shirt that I wear sometimes, and I don't know. A part of my brain said this would be a good idea for branding purposes. That way you see me in the red shirt, you're watching an episode of the Game Collection. And that's when I'm donning the persona of SuperDerek. You know, that sort of thing. And I feel like at a certain point in YouTube, that was sort of the idea, is that you would put on your persona, your best foot forward. You would always want to present yourself as being a character of sorts, which honestly is probably, it's no longer really a thing that you need to do or probably even should do. But it's, at this point, it has become part of my branding, which is why I continue to do it, at least for episodes of the game collection. You know, they say that these days that being authentic is the new authority. And I think I tend to agree with that a lot. I feel like I've never been inauthentic in my videos. At least I've never tried to be inauthentic in my videos. You know, I've never tried to put forward any part of me that wasn't actually me, except for maybe that red shirt, which is why you see me wear it for episodes of the game collection, but probably not really much of anything else. Brownzoon has asked about an RPG. If there was any retro JRPG that could get some sort of Snyder cut, what would it be? And my answer to that is the only one that makes a whole lot of sense to me is Xenogears, because that's the one that got so much content cut out of it that just completely gutted it, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people will disagree with me on that, but those same people will not disagree to a Snyder cut of Xenogears, I'm sure. I would definitely love to see it fully realized in the way that the creators intended before something happened at the end of development that made them rush through that second disc. And then Dodo asked me about what is the most obnoxious story in an RPG that I have experienced. And I don't necessarily think this applies to the entire story of Lufia in the Fortress of Doom, but my God, the way that it just has you go back and forth between searching for Illumina, this MacGuffin that allows you to do certain things, and then it's nested fetch quests, and it is the bane of my existence. I've recently replayed through it in Jukebox Hero Night over on Twitch, which is when I play 3 RPGs at the same time, and anybody who subscribes or cheers switches the game immediately to the next one in the rotation. It's a lot of fun, but it really messes with my head because you're constantly like trying to remember, what was I doing? And anyways, the thing that drives me up a wall were the nested fetch quests, where you got to go get 7 pieces of Illumina, and then in order to get those 7 pieces of Illumina, you've got to, and the Illumina that you're searching for is actually a nested fetch quest in and of itself, because you're like, oh, I need to fix my boat up. I need to make my boat work underwater. And in order to do that, I need to go find the scientist. And the scientist says, well, we can do that, but we need you to go get some Illumina. And then you go find the place, and they're like, well, we have Illumina, but before we'll give you the Illumina, we need you to go to this cave and find this purple newt. And then before you can get the purple newt, it's this thing that just, it's such a Gordian knot of a convoluted fetch quest conundrum. That's all I got to say about that. Lufia and the Fortress of Doom. It may not be the story itself that it's trying to tell that's obnoxious, but it's the story that it takes the player through that is absolutely obnoxious. And that is not to be confused with, by the way, Lufia, Rise of the Sinistrals. That's the one that in Europe everybody called Lufia. In PAL territories, you guys never got Lufia in the Fortress of Doom, and you should count yourself lucky. But that is about it for today's episode of Q&A with SuperDerek. I'll try to edit this into something entertaining, but if you're new here, please do be sure to get subscribed, because I am SuperDerek. I make thoughtful and thought-provoking videos for gamers who love RPGs, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.